you'd think by now I learned you can't say those two words together. You're never going to wash my feet. And Jesus looked at me as he had often looked at me. He said, if I don't wash you, you have no part of me. Well, you got to know me. You know what I said? I want a whole bath then. Because I want to tell you, I honestly, truly always wanted, for that moment that Jesus called me in the boat and I left everything to follow him, I honestly wanted to follow him. I honestly wanted everything that he had for me. And he said, no, you don't need to be washed. He said, you're all clean but one. We were looking at each other. We spent the last 3 years together. What on earth could he be talking about? He washed my feet. He washed Judas's feet. Then, after he addressed himself, he said, do you realize what I've done for you? If I, your master and Lord, have served you in love, and then he said something. Blessed. You know what blessed means? Oh, how happy. On this particular night, when he's carrying the weight and the love for all the world, when he knows what he's going to have to face, he's talking about how we can be happy. And the only way that we can be happy is not by taking things for ourselves. You can gain the whole world. But if you lose your soul, what good did that do? Happy are you if you do this. That night, we were sharing Passover. We'd shared Passover always. I grew up every year sharing Passover. Every year coming to Jerusalem, every year bringing a lamb that's perfect, without spot or blemish, to be able to share together in a Passover, and there we are all together. We're all reclining on our left hand. We're eating with our right hand. The disciple who Jesus loved, you guys all know who that is, right? John was right next to him. And then seated in the seat of honor was Judas. I want you to know something. Jesus knew everything, because later on in the meal he would tell us that one was going to betray him. That night, nothing took Jesus by surprise. He knew exactly what was going to happen. And even though he knew exactly what was going to happen, he knelt down and washed Judas's feet, knowing where those feet had been. He took bread and broke it. Take, eat, this is my body which is broken for you. Then he took the cup, the special cup, the cup that was reserved. He said, drink from it. It is a new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. Judas had already left. We saw Jesus whispering to Judas. We would find out later what he said. Because, my friends, Satan had entered Judas because Judas had allowed him to enter him. Jesus even put him right next to him. Do you realize all he would have had to say was, hey guys, Judas is going to betray me. What do you think we would have done? Yeah, Judas would have never got out of there alive. He who dips his hand in the bowl with me. It's a symbol of oneness. And then later on I would find out, because none of us knew that night, even when Judas left. Thought Jesus sent him on a mission or something. None of us would have ever guessed it was Judas? You realize Judas was an officer. He was our treasurer. We trusted him. And later on, we would find out at that moment that Judas, knowing full well what he was about to do, Jesus said, what you're about to do, go and do quickly. And Satan entered him at that moment. We would find out later where he went. To betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, that's the price of an ordinary slave. Really? 30 pieces of silver? We would later find out right over here. Right here, you can see it right through across this little valley here. Judas, filled with remorse, not repentance, hung himself. The branch on which he hung himself broke, and he fell headlong down, and he split open. It's a field of blood to this day, and it became a potter's field cemetery. So Judas is gone. Jesus is breaking bread with us in the upper room. And then you know what we did? We sang a hymn. Let's sing one verse of Amazing Grace. Because that's what we sang. We sang a hymn. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. We celebrated the Passover right up here. We walked all the way down the Kidron Valley. You see those gold domes over there? Mm-hmm. Just on the other side of that. There was a garden. Jesus had rich friends. In Jerusalem, there was a person who had a private garden. We often went there. Every single one of us knew where that garden was because we had often gone there with the Lord. And Jerusalem's teeming with people. It's Passover. There's a gigantic full moon. You can see all the way. When we started walking, you can see all the way across there. We go into the garden, and I've never seen Jesus look this way before. He picked myself, James, and John. He had picked us before. Do you realize I got to see Jesus transform before my very eyes? Mm. Do you realize I saw it with my own eyes. Jesus become glistening white. I saw Moses and Elijah. I saw the dead raised. I saw the lepers healed. I saw the lame walk, the dumb talk, the blind see. I saw it all. And then Jesus looks at the three of us and he said, "Come watch with me." It was rare Jesus ever asked anything of us. He wanted us to come, and he asked something of me on that night. Would you pray with me? And you know what I did? I fell asleep. After all that I've seen and after all that I've been a part of, I fell asleep. The next thing that I knew, it was Jesus. Could you not even keep watch with me for 1 hour? For once, I kept my mouth shut. Because there wasn't anything to say. What could I say at that moment? I'm going to pray. I'm not going to let my master down. I don't know how much time passed by. But the next thing I know, you know what it is? He's waking me up again. Could you not even keep watch with me? I had told Jesus that even if I had to die, even if I had to die, and now what, I can't even stay awake for a little bit of time? He had already told me, Simon, Simon, he used my old name. Satan has desired to sift you, but I have prayed for you. And when you have returned, strengthen your brethren. Surely now he's woken me twice. He comes again and he says, watch and pray. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And again, I have no idea how long it had been, but I fell asleep the third time. I have no excuse. Was I exhausted? Yes. Was I emotionally drained? Yes, but I have no excuse whatsoever. I fell asleep a third time. He says, rise and come. My betrayer is coming. And you know how you are when you've been dead asleep and you wake up and you're still trying to figure out your bearings. You're still trying to figure out what's going on. Where am I even? And all of a sudden I see soldiers and I see torches and I see Jesus and I see Judas with the soldiers. What's he doing over there? And the next thing that I know, Judas walks over to Jesus and he grabs him and he kisses him. It's the most sick kiss in history. And calls him master. And the soldiers grab him and, shall I strike with a sword? That was my response. And I pull out my sword and there was a servant boy. He wasn't even one of the soldiers. I didn't even pick on one of the soldiers. I picked on a little servant boy. I was aiming to slice him right down the middle of the head. But he ducked and I sliced off his ear. And you know what? I couldn't keep awake and now I'm slicing up a servant. And Jesus said, put your sword away. You realize the last miracle that Jesus did? Malchus's ear that was on the ground. He bent down. He healed who I had hurt with my sword. Everybody was running. They were already starting to abuse him. I said I was going to die. I ran off in the dark. We all ran off in the dark in different places. It wasn't hard to know where they were going. You could watch them. The swords, the noise, the jeers, the screams. I followed. But I followed at a distance. You're going to get in trouble when you follow at a distance. Jesus had told us all of us were going to forsake him. Every one of us would. He knew it. They came here. It's the middle of the night. It's teeming with people, and there's teeming with soldiers, and the courtyard is full of people. Jesus had already been taken in. John comes from a wealthy family. He knew the high priest. He knew the guy at the gate, and the guy at the gate let us in. I'm standing there. I'm so cold. It's April. early April. I'm freezing cold from disgust of my own actions already. I go over by the fire. I want to warm myself by the fire. I want to tell you, you go the enemy's fire, you're going to get burnt. And there I am, trying to get warm. A little servant girl. I'm a fisherman. I'm a big man. A little servant girl comes up and looks at me and she goes, "You were with him." No, I don't even know what you're talking about. I turned around, I turned away from the fire. I didn't want anybody knowing that I was even there at that point. Time